What a year it's been for Star Wars fans. Andor single-handedly saved the Star Wars franchise. Now, I don't know if I believe that 100% myself, but many of you do. And I think we can all agree that Andor did do a majority of the heavy lifting, specifically in regards to keeping people's appreciation and enjoyment of the Star Wars universe alive. And it's very sad to think that a lot of people are right there on the edge of the cliff, thinking if the next product comes out and it doesn't satisfy everything I need it to, that they're done with Star Wars for forever. Now, I don't line myself into that category. I try to enjoy as much as I can. And if there's stuff I don't like, which there was stuff that I didn't like, I try to rationalize that and come up with reasons why I didn't like that, rather than just, I'm done with it. I'm over it forever. So we're going to talk about that, but try to have an emphasis on the good that we got this year, because I do believe, like most of you do, that it was a good year for Star Wars. So welcome to Coffee on Korriban. Hello and welcome back to the show. It's very nice to be with you guys. Took last Monday off, and man, I apologize also for the lack of uploads, because I know that's why many of you recently have subscribed, is for those type of videos, but it's been Christmas and running around and all that sort of stuff. I hope you can forgive me, but Merry Christmas to everyone. Happy New Year, all those fun things. I hope you guys have enjoyed the last few days. Hope that you are all well. I would be very happy if you all are. That'd be awesome. Comment of the week before we get to say hello to everyone comes to us from Nathaniel Bryan, who says, it's actually been a bad year, but the overpowering deliciousness of Andor has rinsed the mouth of all the fecal matter we were forced to swallow at the beginning, i.e. recency bias. Now, I don't know if I would go into that much detail, but I do in general agree. Without Andor, I do believe it would have been a bad year for Star Wars with what we got previously. And a lot of the comments you guys have been putting down there have said the same thing. Andor single-handedly saved the year. For some people, it single-handedly saved Star Wars in general, or their enjoyment of anything that Disney gives us with the Star Wars logo slapped on the front of it. So I would generally tend to agree with that comment. So thank you, Nathaniel, for the comment of the week. Let's say hello to the people in the chat. We've got Anthony, YouTube fan, and I'm going to try to not slurp into the mic because I know some of you guys don't like that. Here's a zip for you. Aussie Star Wars Nerd, here's a sip for you. Charlie, here's a sip for you. Don, here's a sip for you. Jedi Hush, here's a sip for you. Alan Copeland, here's a sip for you. Resolute Rebellion, here's a sip for you. I don't know if I've seen your name before, so if this is the first time I've seen you, welcome to the channel. He says, I hope you had a great Christmas and have a happy new year. Excited for the promise of what could be in 2023. I am as well. Very excited. I don't know if I got Charlie, but here's a sip for you. Dat Boy Steve, here's a sip for you. Here's a chug, chug, chug for all y'all. I love it. Here's another sip for you. KG, here's a sip for you. Nova Vaughn, here's a sip for you. And I think I already got Don, but here's another sip for you if not. I think we're good. So the question I want to pose to all of you, did Andor single-handedly save Star Wars for you personally? I know Kay says Andor absolutely saved the Star Wars year for me. I don't think that I would agree, because I really did enjoy Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi a lot more than most people. And I will readily admit that Andor, or that Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi were not great, but I enjoyed them. And that's really, at the end of the day, what I look to get out of this is, did I have a fun time? Did it make me feel Star Wars-y, that very hard to pin down subjective feeling of Star Wars? And they did. They really did for me. And so I appreciated them for what they were. But it wouldn't have been a great year. Andor absolutely made it a great year. Andor is what I was looking for quite a while, and it did not disappoint. It blew even my expectations out of the water, and my expectations were very, very high for that show, which I'm very happy about. Very happy that it met those expectations. Speaking of high expectations, I don't know what kind of segue that is, but I have high expectations for this guest. Let me bring him in right. I'm going to punch him right in the clover.
I got yeeted!
I'm about to dash those expectations when I show you this new guitar I got.
Oh, a new guitar?
And it's a Stratocaster.
Well, you know how I feel about Stratocasters, but that does look very nice.
Thank you. This was my Christmas bonus purchase for the year.
Awesome.
And I just wanted to get that out of the way here in the beginning.
I love it. I love it. It's nice. Well, how have you been doing? Because I haven't talked to you in a little while. I think really since you were in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I've been good, you know, trucking along with my channel, about the same as I've been. Of course, this past month we've been completely, I like what Nova says in the chat, it's Miami Vice. Sure. But we have been focused pretty much exclusively on Christmas stuff on my channel, just because I've been in the Christmas spirits. In fact, I actually, for the first time ever, sat down and watched the Star Wars holiday special for the channel. And
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Before you continue, everyone, if you have not subscribed to Master Paul and the Star Wars guys, please do. I put the link down in chat right now. That would mean a whole lot to me. If nothing else, as a Christmas present to me and to Master Paul, go subscribe to their channel. They're getting very close to 500 subscribers, and I would love to see you guys help them to reach that milestone. So on to the Christmas special. I tried to watch it for the first time this year, but that was after we had already watched It's a Wonderful Life. It was about 3 a.m. We put on the holiday special, and I fell asleep after about 15 minutes. My wife made it a little bit longer than I did, but she just turned it off. She just could not.
Wow.
So what did you think about the holiday special?
Okay. Is it bad? Yes, it's very bad. In fact, I'm going to go out as far as say that as far as things that have aired on a screen, it is the worst thing attached to Star Wars name, bar none.
Okay.
Like it's so, but in a so bad it's good kind of way.
That's very intriguing. It makes me want to go actually finish it.
Yes, I would recommend it at least once. Just be prepared to lose quite a few brain cells. Thank you.
I will prepare.
Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate that, Resolute. Really appreciate that. And the way I view subscriptions.
And thank you also to Jedi Hush.
Did Jedi Hush just subscribe?
Yep, I just got the notification.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. I really appreciate that, guys, because let's be honest. We're all smaller channels. Me and most of the guys I have on, we're all smaller channels. And so a subscription might not mean a lot to the people that are giving the subscription, but to us, it means a whole lot. And I mean, it feels nice when people enjoy the stuff that you make, but even just as supporting someone who's making videos, it really goes a long way. So thank you very much, you guys. K Saudi, good to see you. Andor elevated the live action for Star Wars this year, with both Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett being mid at best. I would agree. And like I said earlier, I did really like the Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi for what they were. Having hindsight, they're not that great. I would watch them again, but they weren't great. And I get why most people hated them or hate them now, currently looking back on them. So yeah, it is a nice feeling. And my climb of subscribers has really died down the last month. I haven't really pushed the videos and everything the last couple of weeks just because of Christmas. I wanted to spend some time with family. But yeah, it's easy to subscribe to a Star Wars and music fellow fan. Yes, absolutely.
He does music too.
I do. And speaking of music and YouTube and subscribing, my music guy, the guy that does the music for my channel, his name is Akio Beats. He's in Discord too. We are maybe wanting to start a music YouTube channel that does like reviews and stuff of music. That's all going to be his idea, and he wants me to be a guest on there. So maybe look out for that in the near future if you guys are interested. But I saw a question from, I think, Charlie up here, where he's saying he's talking to Andy Serkis Saturday at GalaxyCon. First, ask him if he wants to guest on my show. Just kidding. You won't have any idea who I am. Maybe. I don't know if you want to ask him that. But a legitimate question would be, was he glad to have sort of another chance at playing a different character? As like redemption. I don't know why it switched us.
Yeah, you just froze and blipped out for a second. I don't know whether that was my connection or yours.
Am I still frozen? I have no idea.
Now. You're good now.
Feeling of that, like, because I'm sure it felt, especially with Andor using a lot of physical locations, a lot of practical props and sets, I'm sure it felt more immersive for him as an actor to be in Star Wars and be a part of Star Wars. So I'm sure there was a very different experience regarding that. So both of you are frozen. Yeah, frozen. Hello, child. I don't know if I've ever seen you before, so here's this for you if this is your first time. This is a very relaxed stream. It's the end of the year. We're just kind of talking about what we liked this year. One of the things I wanted to bring up that I did like this year was Nemik's Manifesto. Now, I did release Chapter 1 of Nemik's Manifesto, the audiobook, and a lot of you guys liked that as well. But the manifesto, I think, was huge for the importance of Star Wars this year, because it gave us an insight into the mind of what the average rebel is feeling. Maybe most of the freedom fighters are not going to feel as philosophical or put that much weight into their words, but it was really cool to see what the real cost of rebellion looks like. So I'm really thankful that we got Nemik's Manifesto. I don't know if that even meant as much to you, Paul, but it sure did to me.
It was definitely a touching moment that he was so insistent on passing on that manifesto before he died. And yeah, it definitely puts in perspective the mindset of the average rebellion fighter.
Yeah, because the humanity was really brought into focus with Andor. And I think we're going to end up talking a majority about Andor tonight. When talking about the good that we got in Star Wars, because it really did carry the year. So it put into perspective the human cost of the rebellion and of the Empire. We got to see the actual people involved with it, whether it was the one guy that was a double agent working in the ISB, the actual ground soldiers, the rebels themselves. Like, we actually got to see the human cost. And I saw a lot of comments as well talking about how scary it was to see a single TIE fighter hiding under the rocks from one TIE fighter, and then when they're trying to escape from Aldhani, they got 3 TIE fighters following after them, and they're terrifying. They've never been that scary before. TIE fighters have never been that scary before. It was really cool to see that in perspective. So I don't know if you have any top moments from this year that you can remember.
Well, to answer the overall question, you pretty much answered it for me. I think, all things considered, there was more bad in Star Wars in 2022 than there was good. And truthfully, at least for me, the most good came from things that me and you and other members of the community made ourselves, just having these streams talking about them. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the big one that at least I was certainly part of was the ICC convention this past year, which I am trying to go back to again. It's on Memorial Day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as what Disney has given us, as far as for me, I think the only good, at, at least thing that wasn't bad for me was indeed Andor. And even Andor, I'm not truthfully the biggest fan of. It's better by far than Book of
Mm-hmm.
Boba Fett and Kenobi. It's just not my type of show. And I
Sure.
think this
And I
we've
go
talked
ahead.
about this even in the lead up to Andor. I said to you multiple times that I personally wasn't looking forward to Andor because I'm the kind of person that does want to focus on the lightsabers, the Force, the Jedi and the Sith, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's cool that a show that has none of that is this good, but at the same time, I feel like now it's going to be, well, which one do you want? You can only have one. Do you want a show about the Jedi and the Force and the lightsabers? Or do you want just a good Star Wars story? And I'm
Sure.
like, why can't we have both?
That's a good point. And I do remember seeing a lot of comments of people that said they really do appreciate Andor, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like what they associate with Star Wars. And that's a totally fair opinion to have. I don't see any problem with that.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a bummer that the shows we did get, or the show, I guess, with Kenobi that dealt with the Jedi and the Force and the Jedi himself, like arguably the best representative of the Jedi in Obi-Wan Kenobi, that they didn't do a great job with it.
Yeah.
I
I'm gonna
think the through line, I think, is just missed opportunity.
Mhm.
What we got was okay. There was some really good parts, but there's a lot of missed opportunities.
Yes, and I'm going to bring on something on screen to help further prove my point. So the I guess fan-made character account of Luke
Mm-hmm.
Skywalker asked, "What is it about the lightsaber that made it so special?" I saw this today during work, and I posted, to me, the lightsaber and the idea of the Force and the Jedi and Sith in general is what sets Star Wars apart from other sci-fi properties and is the best fictional weapon of all time. And also yellow and white lightsabers are
They're
still
still
ugly.
ugly.
But
I would
I bring
agree.
that
I
on.
totally agree.
But I bring that up to say that as good as Andor was, the only thing to me that truly tied it to Star Wars was seeing the stormtroopers and of course the clone troopers and hearing all of the mentionings of the Empire. That is literally it that tied
Mm-hmm.
it to Star Wars for me. And even then it's
And
like, well, what's
I have a totally different opinion on that because for me, Star Wars is the world. Star Wars is different to everyone. It's different things to everyone else. But for me, Star Wars is the world. And so when I watch something, do I feel like that is part of the Star Wars world? Andor nailed that for me way more than Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett did in the feeling of, does this feel real? And just like Kay says right here, but the regular Joe in the universe deserves a spotlight too. For me, I didn't need the ties to the stormtroopers. I didn't need even mention of the Empire or anything like that because the world felt legitimate to the Star Wars universe. If you go anywhere in the Star Wars universe, you're not going to see Jedi. You're not going to see
Mhm.
the Emperor. You're probably not going to see even stormtroopers. You're just going to see people. And so maybe that does verge into the realm of feeling as generic star or sci-fi. But for me, that sold the feeling of it, which is the hardest thing to pin down as exactly what it is. But I guess that's why I loved Andor more than some other people, because it gave me that feeling of it being a real place. And I
Right.
didn't need all the other stuff. There was a comment I wanted to get to up here that I did read that I forgot to mention. Resolute says, I think Nemec was able to articulate what most rebels thought and felt in a way for us to gain a better understanding of the motivation other than Empire bad. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like that collective, everyone's feeling the same way, but no one exactly knows how to put it into words. Because all the rebels are feeling the same way. And it was very cool to see that in writing, especially put so beautifully in his words. Yep. Andy's speech, Marva's speech, Luthen's speech. Yeah, there's just so many great moments, and the dialogue just really nailed it in that show. And
I think,
go ahead.
personally, I think for me, it's a tie as far as best moments of the Actually, no, I take that back. Andy Serkis's speech for me is the best moment of all of Andor. And I do believe that, at least for me, the whole prison escape, that should have been the season finale if I was to make this show.
It's a fair point. I like what we got after that. I think it tied up really well.
Mm-hmm.
And along those lines, I think that the creators of Andor did different things than traditional storytelling than you would normally see, especially for television. With television, one example I keep going back to is earlier in this season, episode 5, I believe it was, there was the disagreement between Skeen and Andor over him being a paid mercenary. And there was that tension there. And like, where did you get this Kyber crystal? Who are you really? There was all that tension. A normal TV show would have carried that tension into the heist. So we, the audience, don't know if they're going to turn on each other or what's going to happen. But and the creators of Andor, and I just saw you in the chat, Drunk 3P, I'll say hello to you in just a second. The creators of Andor subverted those expectations, and that's not the phrase that a lot of people like to hear, but they did take that trope and turn it around to where they settled those differences before going into the heist. There's a lot of examples like that where they just did stuff differently than you would normally expect with traditional television, and I really appreciated that. There was plenty of examples of that. Drunk 3PO, good to see you. I think this is the first time I've seen you in my chat, so it's good to see you. Here's a sip for you.
He's been in my chat a couple times.
Awesome. I know we got some mutual friends. I think we've never just been on a stream together, but it's good to see you in the chat. Welcome.
Absolutely.
If you want to jump on and talk Star Wars 2022, kind of a wrap up, you're more than welcome to. I think I've messaged you in Discord before. Just let me know if you want to jump on, and I'll be happy to send you a link. If not, then we will continue. But great to see you in the chat. Appreciate you stopping by. So, well, let's actually read that chat because I don't think I did. Where was it? Andor was such a mixed bag for so many people. Yes, absolutely. Star Wars is a mixed bag for so many people. For some people,
this year alone.
This year in general, even with the originals, for so many people, it's Space Muppets. For so many people, it is the Bible to them. Like, it's just a mixed bag in general, and I don't think there's ever getting away from that. But I think the quality of Andor spoke for itself. He's a lurker. Awesome. Well, appreciate you lurking. So another thing that I really appreciated, and this is going to Kenobi, was kind of the dealing completely with Vader and how Obi-Wan fully let go of Anakin. And I know that might not be a high point for a lot of other people, but that moment really did hit me when he said, Anakin's gone, I'm what remains, and then tied it in with, then my friend is truly dead, which mirrors, then my father is truly dead from Return of the Jedi. That moment just hit me really hard. I don't exactly know why, but maybe it was the finality of, that's the moment that the prequel's relationship of Anakin to Obi-Wan completely died and was never seen again. Maybe that was that moment for me. Because I think, I can't imagine what Obi-Wan was feeling, because he knows, as far as that point, that Anakin's dead. So I don't know if he really held on any hope for that, but at least in my mind, there was still that connection between Obi-Wan and Anakin. But after that point, there was no Anakin in Obi-Wan's mind.
I think for me, what it was in a sense, Anakin telling him, don't beat yourself up over my choices, because at the end of the day, I was the one that made all the choices, not you.
Mm-hmm.
because I think deep down, even if he wouldn't have admitted it. I think deep down, Vader still knew that Obi-Wan was the best master that he could have been. Obi-Wan didn't tell him, go to the dark side. Anakin made that choice himself, and Anakin's just reminding him of that.
Sure.
But at the same time, I feel like a lot of things with Kenobi, there was just far better ways to do it than what they did. And that sucks
Yeah,
because that final fight is, at least to me, one of the better parts of that show.
I would agree. There were a lot of bad parts of that show, but the
Yes.
parts that were excellent, and who was it? Deep Dive, I think, did an edit of the entire series into one movie, and it made it. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a fan edit in cutting things out, as we've seen from Matt Cave's edit of the sequel trilogy. There's only so much you can do as far as pacing and making it flow together, but taking out a lot of the unnecessary things did make it much more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
It just goes back to, again, what we were talking about earlier, missed opportunity. There's stuff they could have
Yes.
done differently, should have done differently. I mean, we can, as the audience, we can yell all day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to make a difference because they're going to make what they make, and we can either enjoy it or disagree with it. But overall, with Kenobi, I enjoyed it, but it's just missed opportunity. It just didn't capitalize like it needed to, which was a little bit sad.
Yeah. In fact, the more that I think about it now, and I may have said something different in the past, but the more that I think about it now, I think overall Kenobi was a much better show than Book of Boba Fett.
I would agree with that.
Because to me, Book of Boba Fett was a mess, like just an unfettered mess.
Yeah, I liked Book of Boba Fett, and I think there weren't as many low points with Book of Boba Fett, but it was all mediocre. There wasn't really anything great about Book of Boba Fett, whereas Obi-Wan Kenobi, there was some low points, some really high points, and overall it was kind of just above average. So I think overall Kenobi was better than Book of Boba Fett, but there was more extremes in Kenobi.
Yeah. Oh,
there was something I wanted to. There it is. Favorite moment for 22 was the Dooku story in Tales of the Jedi. I loved the Dooku arc in Tales of the Jedi. Between all the parallels in that and the prequels to certain lines that were callbacks to other lines to explaining the timeline of Yaddle dying and everything else, it was just really expertly done. And maybe they should have just done that and not Ahsoka, because I didn't really get a whole lot out of the Ahsoka arc in Tales of the Jedi, other than the quick little pep talk right before they go out and face the rest of the clone troopers after Order 66.
See, I never saw Tales of the Jedi, and
You didn't?
no, I didn't.
Oh,
And I just wasn't interested. I heard the Dooku stuff has been great. I heard the Ahsoka stuff, was okay, but at the same time, we've already gotten a lot of it. And overall, I love the character of Ahsoka, but I feel like, just like with Darth Maul, she is becoming far too overexposed, and I don't know for how much longer they can continue to use her, because unfortunately, even in a fictional world, death comes for us all. There has to be a definitive end to her story.
yeah. You should check it out. You should check out Tales of the Jedi. It's not that long. It's 6 episodes of like 15 minutes each. So you can get it all in one sitting. Or just break it up, the Ahsoka arc and the Dooku arc, even though the episode release order was weird. But definitely at least the Dooku episodes, check those out. It ties in a little bit to Qui-Gon, to the Phantom Menace. It just got a lot of really cool ties and explains Dooku's character a lot better than we get in just the movies. Did you read Dooku Jedi Lost by chance?
I started listening to the audiobook of it, and I think I got about halfway through before something else grabbed my attention.
Okay.
Something that may or may not have been called Work, because I totally wasn't listening to the audiobook when I wasn't supposed to at work.
Yeah. It's good. I'm not going to say it's great. I'm not going to say it's essential, but Dooku Jedi Lost was very informative into Dooku's character. I really liked it. Another moment that really hit me this year was the death of Olaf. And I don't know if it hit everyone else as much as I did, but based on the comments, a lot of people really connected with that moment, namely because it was a stroke that he died from. And so, of course, everyone has family members that they've lost, or have the family members have been affected by strokes. My mother had a stroke. Oh, what did that have been? 5 years ago or so, and she has barely been able to speak since. So that's been a really real thing in my life and my family's life since that happened. And so to see that kind of a connection to the Star Wars universe, it's very personal. And I forget who pointed it out, but that is not a Star Wars death. And some people might say that it doesn't fit and it kind of brought them out of the story, but it's not a Star Wars death. And so in a universe of battleships and moons that can blow up other planets and space laser swords and wizards and all this sort of stuff, to have like a dose of realism injected right into the center of it. For some people, it took them out of it. For other people, it pulled them into the story. It made it real. And it added weight to it.
Real quick, highlight what Don Clatterman just said there.
That was tragic, and we could sense his demise coming, but couldn't stop it. Yeah.
Yeah, because what touched me the most about his death was the fact that you could tell somewhat early on after mentioning him that he's starting to slow up. You know, he's having a hard time focusing on the job, and yet, you know, he's in that prison where they're forced to work. He keeps going literally until he drops dead, either on the way to or from the job.
Mm-hmm.
He pushes himself till he can't.
It makes you hate the Empire because there is nothing that could have been done. Even the doctor in there is one of the prisoners, and there's nothing they can do. There's no treatment for anything. I would imagine if there's any injuries, they just dispose of the people because they're not profitable to keep around. It brings that realism of the harsh treatment of the Empire. I forgot the word I was looking for. But it brings it into focus, and especially with the death, it's too real. And for some people, again, it does take them out of the story. But for people like myself, it pulls us in and makes us realize, like, this there's a lot of weight to this. This is important. This is why we need to fight the Empire, because this is what they do. This is what that absolute power does if left unchecked. So that was an amazing moment for me, as well as the other ones we've talked about.
And I want to mention another thing about just that whole jail arc in general. That whole arc to me was the best arc of the show, and for a whole other angle to it, because I was oddly enough picturing myself as one of the Imperial guards and wondering, like, okay, suppose I'm in these shoes, what would I do? Because I'm sure I've told you before, I actually was a prison guard at one point. And so here I see a version of a job that I used to hold, and I can't help but, you know, what if I was in charge of running that jail? I certainly wouldn't have been one of the more tyrannical guards that we meet. I would have been just one of those guys doing his job, you know, mostly because either you have to do your job. Either you at best get fired, or at worst get fired upon. And
regimes are full of people just doing their job.
Yeah.
And it's scary to think that if we were in the universe at that time, would we have been those people? Would we have been inundated into that environment so much to where we eventually turn into someone like a Dr. Gorst, or someone like that one guy who was talking about Pax? Is it Pac or Pac's dad? I don't remember. Saying he would just wanted to hang him. Like, do we, if we were in that place, would we just be in the environment so much that we become numb to what we're actually doing? And also to the point to where we enjoy what we do to those people and subjugating other people because it makes us feel powerful. I hate to think that. But it's the same cold situation with people saying, and I don't know how much of I'm allowed to say on YouTube, but, oh, man, if I lived back before the Civil War, I would have been one of those people speaking out against slavery. Okay, well, why weren't there many people doing that? Because that was just the way that everything went. And people knew nothing different. And I love that idea of the rebellion had to take place when it did in Star Wars, because if they had waited any longer, all the people that remembered life before the Empire would have died off. And the people that lived, that were born and grew up and lived under the Empire, under Palpatine's regime, would have known nothing different and would have had no motivation to fight against it. So if the rebellion hadn't taken place where it did, which Andor is leading up all those events, Rogue One capitalized and made them all come together and start that first attack on Scarif. If that all didn't happen where it did and it was delayed, say, another 5 years, probably would have never happened.
No.
It's very interesting to think about.
Another aspect of Andor that I enjoyed, that I was honestly expecting not to enjoy, was Daedra's character. Mostly just from the shock of finally they're, at least from what I could tell, they were doing a strong female character that wasn't, trying to one-up, basically that wasn't trying to spread the message, at least that I could tell.
Yeah. That's another question. Is there was a lot of talk leading up to it about, oh, Andor is going to be super, super woke. Obviously, we had the one relationship between Cinta and Vel, but it was hinted at. It wasn't ever really explicit. And other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of messaging in Andor like a lot of people were reading into it.
Like the whole thing of Mon Mothma being equated to Nancy Pelosi, I didn't see it.
No, I didn't either. Yeah, I didn't see that, and I stayed away from reading articles about that stuff, with the exception of the one that talked about Luthen Rael being a drag queen. Which, if you didn't see that video, that was, yeah. Just we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't read any articles talking about reading into the show politics that may or may not be there, because I didn't want any of that to taint my experience of it. And I didn't see She-Hulk. I have no desire to check that out.
Same.
But there was nothing that was in your face as far as pushing a message or being woke or anything like that, which was welcome to me. I'm all for not having messages shoved in my face.
Same. But at the same time, people on Twitter saying things like, oh, expect so-and-so character remind you of so-and-so politician that is on one side of the aisle.
Yeah.
They're stacking the deck against themselves for a good portion of their audience by saying things like that. Like, why not just say, I hope, here's this show coming out. We put a lot of work into it. I hope you like it. And just leave it at that.
They should say that exactly the same way you just said that right now.
Here's our show coming out. We put a lot of work into it. I hope you like it.
Yep, just like that. And put that at the end of every single trailer for every show coming out next. Well, we hope you guys like it.
Yep.
I think that'll go over very well. I don't really have anything left on my list to talk about for moments. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys in the chat as we wrap up here tonight. What was your favorite moment of Star Wars 2022? Sorry. And then we'll get into some polls and we'll wrap it up. What was your favorite moment of the year, everyone in chat? This coffee's not working.
I have another one I want to mention.
Go.
Our meetup this year.
Yes. So outside of the Star Wars universe, Paul and I did meet up. This is the second year we've met up. I always enjoy spending time with you, but this one was at Dollywood, and you also came over for dinner.
Yes.
It's just nice spending time with you. I don't know if any of you guys have ever made friends on the internet and then actually met up in real life, but it's very nice to have friends that that you then meet in person. Coach from Echo Base Network is another person where you know him online and then you meet him in person and you can like actually call them friends because you actually know them.
Exactly.
Yes, definitely a highlight of the year.
And of course, the fact that you and I were able to come up with a completely compelling hypothetical battle just off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
for
was
anyone that missed that
perfect.
stream, it was a 5-on-5 light side versus dark side. We each picked, you picked 5 characters from the light side. I picked 5 characters from the dark side. 2 of them from each team had to be non-force sensitive, and it was a fight to the death. Who was left standing? And I think we did very well on writing in a story of what would happen.
We
It was
did.
very fun. It was very fun.
And then that same night, you and I, for this channel, did a reaction to, I believe, Andor episode 7, which was fun.
Say that again. I'm sorry. It was my wife.
I said that same night that I came over, you and I, for your channel, did a reaction to Andor episode 7.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was fun. Yeah, and my wife joined me for a couple of reactions too, which
I saw that.
It's fun reacting with another person because then you don't just feel like you're just trying to talk every 5 seconds during the reaction. But let's pull up some polls real quick. Israel said Kino's speech was my favorite Star Wars moment.
Yes.
Yep, Luthen's monologue. Agree with that as well. The dialogue in Andor was so good. There were so many moments in Andor that are top 10 worthy. And it was all dialogue, not just action, which I think was the part that blew my mind. One of the polls I wanted to bring up was, will 2023 be a good year for Star Wars? 39% said yes, and 53% said maybe.
I'm one of those 53.
So, yeah, I would put myself in the 53 as well, because will I enjoy Star Wars in 2023? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to enjoy it. Is it going to be a good year for Star Wars? Meaning, are the majority of people going to like a majority of the content? Maybe. I don't know. It's a very interesting question. I don't know. Another poll. That's the same one. Was 2022 a good year for Star Wars? Discuss in the comments. 90% said yes. And of those 130 comments, almost all of them were talking about how Andor was the sole reason why it was a good year.
Yeah. And I think I voted no on that poll.
Which is totally understandable. I get it. And then the last poll was the Star Wars Holiday Special.
I voted bruh.
Bruh. Yeah. Nova Vaughn says I'm a maybe on that. Maybe. Yeah. Overall, I really enjoyed this year. I had a lot of fun. Andor really set it off, though, and I'm really happy with that. And you'd be surprised how many comments on my posts there have been saying, like, I'll watch the stuff that comes out next year, but I'm really just waiting for Andor season 2, which is crazy because no one other than myself, Matt Cave, and a couple other people, no one saw Andor being the success that it was. But I did.
And on that front, I kind of have to concede that to you.
I'm glad you checked it out because before Andor came out, I was a little bummed that you were done with Star Wars.
I know.
A little
yes,
sad
Kenobi was so bad that I went through an identity crisis and started calling myself something crazy called Fandomology. Which, by the way, that name no longer even belongs to me. I gave that to my friend.
That name no longer has any meaning to me. I did really like that name, though.
Thank you.
It's kind of hard to think that Kenobi also came out this year. It feels like so far away now. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I have largely just blocked out Kenobi and Book of Boba from my mind. Like they do indeed feel so long ago.
Yeah. Hold on just a second, sweetie. Yeah, before we wrap it up, what do you think about Ahsoka? Are you even interested in checking it out?
marginally. Of
Okay.
of the four big things that I know of that's coming out in 2023, Ahsoka I would put as number 3, as far, in third place as far as how excited I am. Number 1 is the game Jedi Survivor. Number 2,
Mhm.
Mando. Number 3, Ahsoka, and then number 4, Bad Batch season 2.
Cool. I'm excited for Bad Batch season 2. I think it'll be fun like the first season, but a little more serious.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not
it'll
gonna.
be more.
I know for a fact I am not gonna watch it week by week. I'm gonna wait until it all comes out and then just binge it, because I might have enjoyed season 1 better if I had done that, but waiting from week to week after so many, at least to me, filler episodes killed the show for me.
Mm-hmm. And only time will tell if that Ahsoka fatigue that everyone's talking about will become a factor with Ahsoka.
Hmm.
With her appearance in Tales of the Jedi, they need to not mention her name until the show comes out. If you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying. But overall, I liked 2022. Here's the 2023. Again, Merry Christmas to everyone. Cat Drool 2. First time I've seen you. Here's a sip for you. Andor created such a high bar on writing and storytelling, it will be hard for the 2023 Star Wars IP to stand up to that level of writing. Yeah, are we going to watch Mando 3 and be disappointed because it's an arcade game just like the first 2 seasons were?
Can I mention something about that?
Of
It
course.
it is worth noting, out of everything that we've got in Star Wars, I think we all agree Andor was the best. And guess what? 2 people were not involved in it. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Yep, you are
Jon,
absolutely
Fav-
correct.
Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni were involved in Book of Boba Fett, less so, but I think to some degree in Kenobi. And then along comes Andor that has neither of them, at least that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the best thing that we've gotten this year.
And this is very interesting, chillin'. But I'd like to think that Favreau and Filoni were at least consulted with Andor, and that some of the ideas we got to see on screen were from them. But if it is true that they had nothing to do with this show, that is concerning. That most people want them to be in charge of everything.
Right.
I don't know if I feel that way.
And the sad truth is also a lot of the problems that people took specifically with Book of Boba Fett did not come from Robert Rodriguez. It came from Favreau and Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the speeder bikes everyone made fun of.
And the branch and the spin trick and other things. No disappointment in Mando. It's the Saturday matinee versus the Masterpiece Theater. Yeah, that's how I view it. Whatever the Bad Batch is, it's not going to be Andor. Whatever Ahsoka is, it's not going to be Andor. Whatever Mando is, it's not going to be Ahsoka. It's not going to be Book of Boba Fett. They're different, and I'm going to try to enjoy whatever I get in this next year. And we're going to leave it at that. I appreciate all of you guys for joining in the chat. Appreciate you, Paul, for stopping by. It's always nice to talk with you. Merry Christmas to everyone. Also, special shout out to my mother who got me this shirt. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, wow. I like that.
I do too. So, Mom, thank you very much for the shirt.
If you can get me a link for that shirt, I want it.
Yeah, I'll ask my mom where she got it. But that'll do it. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay safe with all the winter weather if you live in parts of the country that are getting blizzards and snow right now. Stay safe. Enjoy your time on Hoth. May the stash be with you. And I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy, probably next year. Oh, wrong button. Hold up. Bye.